all you really can think about is you want it to stop, and how can you get it to stop?
Lincoln resident Tom Gardner worked as a Peace Corps volunteer during the bloody Guatemalan Civil War of the 1980s. He went as an ambassador of peace, but that is far from what he experienced. Because of the work he was doing there, Gardner was targeted by members of the Guatemalan government and was tortured. After this terrifying experience, Gardner returned to the United States. For many years, issues related to his torture in Guatemala remained unresolved.
One of the processes of torture is to make you feel isolated and helpless. So that's the reverse societal damage that it does. They'll tell you nobody cares, nobody's going to hear you scream, nobody's going to know that this is being done to you.
Gardner didn't find the help he needed until he found a group called the Torture Abolition and Survivor Support Coalition, also known as TASC.
TASC is an organization that really helps survivors to give them back their voice, to let them know that it is okay and safe to speak out about their experiences and to speak out about how horrible torture is and how criminally insane it is.
Last spring, Gardner started a local chapter of TASC right here in Lincoln. For survivors, it is a place to feel safe, to share their story, and to socialize. Gardner says the group has been helpful for him as he tries to cope with the traumatic experiences in his past.
From the very first time that I was united with two other torture survivors right here in the Lincoln area, it really did have an effect that I couldn't have predicted, that it suddenly reduced the feeling alone and isolated.
Dr. Megan Watson, a counseling psychologist, has experience working with torture survivors such as Gardner here in Lincoln.
I think it's important when there's any kind of trauma really to feel like you're not alone, to feel like that you haven't gone through this by yourself, that there are other people who understand what you've been through and kind of understand what you're dealing with. I think it can be really comforting to have others around you who have been through the same thing.
Salmia Matabushi, a counseling psychology PhD student at UNL, has also worked with those who have undergone torture.
Particularly with torture, where oftentimes you would hear survivors say something like their torturers would tell them that you can go out there and tell people that this has been done to you, but nobody would believe you. They would think you're crazy. These kind of things don't happen in the world. So when somebody has gone through something that intense and has been told so many times that nobody will believe what's been done to you, for them to come out then and to have somebody else say, I've been through that too, is very powerful.
Recently, the group hosted one of its first public events, a screening of the film Breaking the Silence, which documents the stories of several torture survivors.
It's very important to have events like this and have people be able to watch something like this, to become aware of regular people out there, people who probably live in your midst and you had no idea the kind of things that they might have experienced, to recognize that. And I think that would have a huge experiential impact and probably move people to do something.
The group does more than offer support for survivors. It also fights for torture abolition. To do that, education is the key.
The task here locally is not just torture survivors, but supporters. It's a place where people can get together and talk about what can we do, because I think there's a kind of a helpless feeling, like there's nothing we can do, both for survivors and for supporters. And so I think that's the aim really, is to have a place to talk about what can we do. Is there something that we can do locally?
Gardner says the comfort he finds when in the company of other survivors has led to personal strength and growth. He hopes that the local chapter of TASC can help other survivors overcome their fears and feel strengthened in the fact that they are not alone.
We continue to try to work to make it grow so that we can continue to reach more and more survivors and help them and help bring them, if they are ready to and want to, out of the dark and into the light and back into society, and welcome them back.